So today's video is about slope, and we talked a little bit today in class about steepness of lines, and the lines that you had graphed over the last couple of days in class showed you, hopefully, that the steepness of lines has to do with the slope, and the positive slopes are going to go towards the positive for coordinate quadrant 1, and the negative slopes are going to go towards quadrant 2. And then we talked about how fractional, like 1/2 or 1/3 slopes are going to be less steep, and then whole number, like 3 or 4, okay, 5, the bigger the number, the steeper the line. So now we're going to look at how to find slope. If maybe you're not given an equation, there's actually 3 different ways we're going to learn to find slope. The first way is given 2 points. So you're always going to have to be given 2 points in order to find a line, because 1 point doesn't determine just one line, 2 points do. And you're going to find the vertical change, that's the change in your y values, and you're going to put it over the change in your x values. So the mathematical formula for it is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And these little sub-numbers are just identifying a certain point. So if we go to -2, 1 and 0, -3, you're all going to pick one point that you're going to call point number 1 and one point that you're going to call point number 2. I don't care which one you call point 1 and point 2, but you're going to label them. So this is my x value in point 1. I'm just going to call it point 1 because it's the first one. And this is my y value in point 1. This is my x value in point 2, so I'm going to call it x2. And this is my y value. And then I just end up plugging it into that formula. So y2 is -3 minus y1, which is 1, over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is -2. Notice the double negatives, because the minus sign is standard in the formula, and the negative sign has to do with the sign of my x1. -3 minus 1 is -4, and 0 minus -2 is +2. And when I go ahead and reduce that, I get a slope of -2. Okay, so again, I identified this is my point 1, so this is the x value of my point 1, this is the y value of my point 1, x value of my point number 2, y value of my point number 2, and then I just plug it in. If you are a XY chart person and you find it more or easier to use XY charts to find slope, when you use an XY chart, you're using the formula, you're just not technically writing it out. And here's how you would use the formula. We've been speaking a lot about patterns and how slope is determined by patterns, or anytime you use a linear equation, you're going to end up finding a pattern. Great. If you look here, to go from -2 to 0, you add 2. To go from 1 to -4, you -4. So if you look here, here's my -4 and here's my +2. I'm going to put the vertical change, or my change in the y, on the top, because that's the formula for slope. Slope is rise over run. How much you go up goes on the top of your fraction, how much you go over goes on the bottom. And there's my +2. And it ends up equaling the same -2 slope. You can use the green way, which is the algebraic formula way, or you can use the blue way, which is algebraic, just not using a formula. So that's given 2 points. Let's talk about when you're given an equation. When you're given an equation of a line, as long as we are in y equals m, which is our slope, okay, x plus b, that's called slope-intercept form. It is the way that you, during this class, are going to see most of your linear equations. You're going to see the y alone, and it's going to equal some number that's in front of x plus b. We're going to learn about b tomorrow in our y-intercept video, but today we're just learning about the m, which is the slope. All you have to do to find the slope of a line, when you are given an equation in y equals mx plus b form, y is alone, some number in front of x plus or minus some number, you're going to look at the number in front of x, that is going to be your slope. It's that easy, okay? So when you're given the equation of a line, you look at the number that's in front of x. Remember, this only works when you're in slope-intercept form, when the y is isolated with no number next to it multiplied by it or added or subtracted from it. It is completely and totally alone. Then you have some number in front of x, and then there's some number that's added or subtracted from it. If there's no number that's added or subtracted from it, it just means that your y-intercept or your b is 0, and you can still find the slope by just identifying the coefficient of x, the number in front of x. In this case, the number in front of x is an entire negative 1/3, and I am done. So we've looked at how to find it with 2 points, which I'm going to let you go ahead and pause your video and try a couple of these to find the slope given 2 points, which is what we just did on the last slide. And we've also learned given an equation. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these. If you would like to pause the video, try them, and then unpause it, or if you need another guided practice, you can keep watching. Okay, I'm going to do it both ways. I'm going to use my XY chart method. 4, 3, 8, 4. So here I'm adding 1 to my y, and I'm adding 4 to my x. So rise is the y, run is the x, 1/4. If I chose to use the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, I would say this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. So x2, y2 minus y1, hello, good morning, over x2 minus x1, y1, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, and they're the same. So I don't care whether you use the green way or the blue way, that is completely and totally your choice. You should end up getting the same answers. Just remember, when you're putting the point in your XY chart, you have to remember to put the x where the x is and the y where the y is for both points. You also have to remember your integer values, right? So here I'm subtracting 7, here I am adding 3. So in this case it's negative 7 over positive 3. Ugly slope, keep it improper. It's going to make a huge difference when you start graphing lines using slope and y-intercept. So here, negative 5, negative 8, negative 3, negative 12. Here I am subtracting 4. Here I am adding 2. Negative 4/2 is negative 2. And I found slope using equations of the line, just the number in front of x. 2 points. And then the very final thing that we're going to look at is looking at slope using the equation of a line. Sorry, using the graph of a line. When we look at this line, we are not given an equation. We are given 2 points. Know that points they don't have to be red dots, but they're where the line crosses the corner of the blue grid, right? So even though this isn't actually plotted, it's a point. You can use these 2 points and just do a simple XY chart and say, okay, I'm going to say 1, 2, and I'm going to say negative 3, negative 6. In this case, I am minusing 8. In this case, I am minusing 4. Negative 8 over negative 4 is a positive 2. If you look at the graph, okay, and I'm just going to put the points in, because it's hard kind of for you guys to see that. Rise is going up. Run is going right or left, okay? Rise is up or down. Run is left or right. I can start at any point on my graph. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to count the number of boxes it takes me to get from one point to the next. 1, 2. So my rise is 2. Run. 1. My run, or my change in my x, is 1. My slope in this case is 2. Wait, but Miss Almeida, what happens if you decided to start at the bottom and go all the way to the top? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my rise here is 8, and my run is 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, wait, that reduces to 2 as well. Let's just, for giggles, go in here. Okay, go from this point to this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Hey, that reduces to 2 as well. Bottom line is, you can start at any point on your line. and go to any other point on your line, and the ratio of the number of boxes you rise over the number of boxes you run will always be the same, regardless of how far up or down the line the points you choose are. So if you start at the bottom and go to the top, it's 8 over 4. If you start at the second point that you graphed and go to the fourth point that you graphed, it's 4 over 2. And then any distance between 2 points is always going to be rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1. And after we master the skill of finding slope, we're going to learn how to graph lines given just the equation. So from this video, you should know how to find the slope given the equation of a line, given 2 points, and hopefully given a graph.